next class. So today let's finish SCLinux, and what we are going to cover here, observe, is basics of SCLinux. And as far as production environments are concerned, I don't think we have to go beyond basics. That's more than enough for us. So what is SCLinux? How does it work? And how we can make the changes in SCLinux configuration. Let us try to understand that. See, for the security of your system, we uses antiviruses to protect our system against viruses and firewalls to protect our system against unauthorized accesses. So these two tools we generally use for our protection of the system. Now, on the top of antivirus and firewall, when you add one more layer of security from Linux, that is called as SCLinux. SCLinux stands for Security Enhancement of Linux. So how that security enhancement work? Let's try to see. See, we have two types of control: discretionary access control and mandatory access control. In discretionary access control, we have our general firewalls, antiviruses, read, write, execute permissions. All that thing comes under discretionary access control. So when you are working with discretionary access control, if the hacker gains access to your system, maybe they get to know the password or somehow they breach into your system, they get access to the whole system. They can go anywhere and they can do anything. That is a big issue, right? See, firewall may protect unauthorized access from a port. If the port number is open, people can enter. We can make a security guard stand in front of door. Now, if security guard is not there and the door is open, then nobody will stop them. Anybody can enter into your house and go out. That's what the problem will happen. That means if someone gain access to your house, they can go into any room, because once people enter your house, all the doors are not locked, right? So once they gain access, they can go anywhere in the house. Same way, in this case, we are providing security. But if people get to know the password, if the port is open, people gain access to your system. Once they gain access, they can go anywhere in the system and they can do anything. To control this part, we go with our next level of security, that is called as mandatory access control. So in MAC or mandatory access control, what will happen is we will define that which service can do what and what they cannot do. So suppose if someone get access to your system, maybe through HTTP web services or FTP file transfer protocol, from different services, people had breach into your system. Now, once they have breached into the system, according to FTP, according to HTTP, according to NFS, whatever service they are using will have a role. And according to that role, we will restrict them only to one place. It's like we are just telling that if people are coming from first door, they can only be at one place. They cannot go into another place. So what will happen is, if the door of your house, the main door is open, when people enter into your house, they will find themselves that they only have access to one room. All other rooms are locked, right? So a burglar break into your house. Now, once the burglar break into your house, he will find that all the doors, all the rooms of your house is locked. Only one room is open. So damage will be very less over here. So people coming from FTP, we can restrict them only at one place. People coming to your system through HTTP, we can restrict them only at one place. And not only we can restrict, but we can make the rule that what people can do, what people cannot do. People can change the directory or not. People can upload the data or not. People can download the data or not. Every step you can put a condition and you can make sure that people does not cross it. So even if someone gains access to your system, they will have very limited access. So we will have full control over people who are hitting to your system through different applications. See, on production environment, we run many applications and people will connect to that application and they will work. For example, you are shopping on Amazon. So to do transaction, there will be one application, right? To book the order, there will be one application. So people might connect to your system to different application and they can work. So we can control that which application can do what and which application cannot do what. So we cannot openly keep everything. People coming from one application, we will restrict them only till one place, right? So this is how SCLinux is going to work. And SCLinux policies are directly applied on kernel level. That is the reason it is also very strong, because directly kernel is going to handle everything. So that is where SCLinux become very important. Now how it protects your system, a small example is available here. See, we have something called subject. Now, subject can be any process through which you are connecting to your system. It can be FTP, HTTP, Samba, DNS, SSH, any service that you are using to connect to your system. Now, a process wanted to gain access to an object. What is object? Object can be any file or any directory. So people through FTP, for example, wanted to read and write on a file. So when they try to make a request between process, between subject and object, we will have SCLinux policy server. It is going to monitor each and every activity. It is going to find out whether this activity is valid to go forward or not. If it is valid, people will gain access. If it is not valid, then they are going to receive denial messages, right? So in this case, every activity you are trying to upload the file, it will be monitored. If we allowed, people will upload the data. If we are downloading the file, it will be monitored. If we have allowed it, then only it will be downloaded. So we have restricted access and very high control on applications who are connecting to our system. So whenever people are connecting to your system with the help of different application, to control their access, basically SCLinux is introduced. So SCLinux will not allow application to roam freely into your system. There will be a restricted access, only those things they can do. Other things will be automatically blocked, right? So it is an additional layer of security. Now don't think that SCLinux is a substitute to firewall or substitute to antivirus. Firewall, antiviruses are also important. On the top of it, when you add one more security, overall security will be very strong. It's like you have a jewelry showroom. Now in your jewelry showroom, you are going to keep CCTV cameras, or you will be keeping alarms or something. But an additional layer of security, you will keep an armed security guard who will be taking a gun and standing outside of your showroom. So that is an extra layer of security. So here also, on the top of firewall and antivirus, we place one more layer of security, which is called as SCLinux. Now SCLinux has a configuration file. The configuration file for SCLinux is etc SCLinux config. This is the main file, but it also have a soft link, etc sysconfig SCLinux. Either you can edit first location or second location, you'll get the same output. Okay, fine. Now inside it, we have one more concept called modes of SCLinux. See, everything has a mode. If you just look around, you will find electric switches in your room. Now those electric switches also have modes, either on or it can be off. Same way, SCLinux is available in three modes. enforcing, permissive, and disable. Let me give them a simple name for your understanding, right? So how many modes are there in SCLinux, right? Can be a question, remember it, right? There are three modes: enforcing, permissive, and disable. Now you see, enforcing means, in a simple terminology, I'm going to name it. Enforcing means active mode. In this case, SCLinux is completely active. It is monitoring incoming, outgoing connection, protecting your system. Any unauthorized activity will be blocked. SCLinux is taking complete charge of security. It's active. Then you have a concept called disabled. Disabled means what? It is inactive. No SCLinux protection, no monitoring, no log saving, no protection, nothing. SCLinux is completely inactive. Now between active and inactive, you have one more mode called permissive mode. Now permissive mode you can understand as warning mode, or you can also call it as debugging mode. See, what happens is when SCLinux is enforcing, it is going to protect your entire system. Any unauthorized access, any unauthorized activity is going to block. But sometimes we may have some issues with SCLinux, right? So we want to fix those issues. How can I fix those issues? You have to stop SCLinux protection, and then you have to work with that. For example, electric wiring issues is there. We found out where is the fault. So what we will do, first we will power off the main junction, and then we will fix the thing and again power on. That's how debugging goes on, isn't it? If you find there is a problem in your mobile phone or in your laptop or desktop, we will first shut it down, open the components, and then we will work. So same way, if there is a problem with SCLinux, to fix it, I need to go into debugging mode. So I need to go into permissive mode. But why permissive mode? Why I should not go for disable directly? Why to go into permissive? I'll directly go into disable mode, fix the issue, and come back. Possible. You can go into disable mode, repair the thing, come back. But the problem is whenever you want to go from enforcing to disable or permissive to disable, remember a point, you have to reboot the system. See, disable mode cannot be activated while system is up and running. So from enforcing or permissive, if you want to go to disabled mode, mandatorily you have to reboot the machine. Now on production environment, do you think it is possible to reboot the machine every 2 times, 3 times whenever you find issues with SCLinux? Definitely not. It is not going to work out that way, right? So in that scenario, permissive mode is there, because whenever you want to go from enforcing to permissive, you don't need any downtime. And again, permissive to enforcing, you don't need any downtime. Up and runningly, you can go from enforcing to permissive and permissive to enforcing. But enforcing permissive to disable, if you are going, mandatorily reboot. Again, from disable, if you want to go back to enforcing or permissive, one more time you have to reboot the machine. So to avoid rebooting, permissive mode was introduced. So where you can put it into warning mode, where only it will print warnings, no protection it is going to do, so that you can fix the issues with SCLinux and again activate it back. Right? So three modes are there: enforcing, permissive, and disabled. Right? Now, let's move forward to the next point inside your SCLinux. Next thing is Booleans. So what is Booleans? I hope you have heard about Booleans. Normally, Booleans are the choices that you will keep as true or false. See, I told you at the beginning of this chapter that in SCLinux we can control activities. So you can control each and every activity with the help of Booleans. Like with respect to FTP, user can upload the data, true or false. User can download the data, true or false. User can change the directory, true or false. User can modify the things inside it, true or false. So related to an application, small activities that you can control are nothing but Booleans, and possible result for Boolean is true or false or on or off. So any activity you can on and off, or you can say true or false. Both are same. Then we have a major component called SCLinux Policy. See, SCLinux Policy is the set of rules that guides the SCLinux engine. So here we designed a policy, and according to policy, SCLinux is going to work, right? Unfortunately, we are not going to cover SCLinux policies. In fact, it is not required in most of the cases to know how to design SCLinux policy. See, it requires architect level knowledge to design a policy. Just keep in this thing in your mind that we are learning how to drive a car. We are not learning how to build a car, right? So someone will build the car, we will purchase and we will drive. So same way, SCLinux policies will come by default in the system. We'll just apply it and we will work with that. Now in SCLinux policy, there is one very important concept called SCLinux Context that we are definitely going to learn. Context is a permission or a label that you can apply on a file or on a directory, or in fact on a process also, right? So what we can do is, if you want a file to be accessed or not to be accessed, so you can set a small context on a file. Like normally we give read, write, execute permissions. Same way in SCLinux, we have some set of rules that you can apply on a file. So those rules that you can apply on a file is nothing but context. So just treat it as file permission. Normally to control a file, we have file permission. Here, to control the behavior towards the file, we will have SCLinux context. We will learn what it is. Now let us see whether SCLinux is in enforcing mode, permissive mode, or what. So let me just log in, and I'm going to say get enforce. Get enforce will tell you SCLinux is in enforcing mode or permissive mode or disable mode. But it does not tells you that whether it is a temporary mode or permanent mode. To know more detail about it, you can go with our next command, SCStatus. In SCStatus, so many information it will give you. It tells you SCLinux is enabled right now. All SCLinux data is mounted in sysfs SCLinux. If you just see what is inside that directory, you will find inside it you have booleans, you have context, you have policy. Everything related to SCLinux is mounted in this location. So if SCLinux is enabled, this directory will be there. If it is disabled, this directory will also be not there because it is a mount point. Now ignore what is the policy name, version and all that thing. Concentrate here. The current mode of SCLinux is enforcing, and the mode from config file is also enforcing. Now what is the difference between current mode and mode from config file? If I take you back to partition class, we learned about temporary mounting and permanent mounting. Temporary mounting will be lost as soon as you reboot the machine, correct? Same way, current mode can be anything. Right now it is enforcing. It is not guaranteed that after reboot also it will be enforcing. Or it is permissive. So it is not guaranteed that after reboot it will be permissive. So right now it can be anything, but after reboot, it is going to come the mode which is mentioned in configuration file. So whatever you have mentioned in configuration file will be your permanent mode, because during boot, the booting process will read config file. In config file, if you have given enforcing, it will bring SCLinux in enforcing mode. If you have mentioned permissive, it will bring it into permissive mode. If you mention disabled, it will bring it into disabled mode. So mode from config mode is a permanent mode. Current mode can be changed at any point of time. Ignore all policy versions, these that, we don't have to worry about that. Now, let us see context. See, normally I may have many files over here. For example, I have a file called heart. If I check what is the detail about heart, it tells me detail like that. If you want to view context related to SCLinux, then you can say ls hyphen l capital Z. So when I say ls hyphen l capital Z, it will display the context of SCLinux, like how SCLinux is going to protect this file. ls-l will only show you normal permission. LZ will tell you SCLinux related permission. So it says this file belongs to administrator's home directory. So SCLinux will only allow administrator to access it, that is root to access it. If normal user or any other process try to access this file, it will stop. It says this file does not belongs to a normal person editing. It only requires admin. So only admin can edit it. You cannot edit it. So basically, SCLinux is going to protect this file only to be accessed by administrator. Even if the file you have given full access 777, if FTP or HTTP or Samba or any other application try to access this file, it says you are not allowed to access. This file belongs to admin, not to any other application. So that's how SCLinux is going to protect this file to be accessed by other sources. Only root can access it or admin can access. Other application, other users, it will block, even if you have given full permission also. Same way, if you want to check the details about a directory, suppose I have a directory here, my dir. To check the details about directory also, you can add ls-ld, that's the normal, and after that capital Z, my directory. And if you want to view what is inside it, ls-lz. So there is nothing. Let me add some files inside it. You know how to add files, right? So to directory, if you want to see ls-ld and capital Z, all the files inside it, ls-l capital Z. So as you can see, the directory is having that permission. The files inside it is having all admin home. That means the directory and all its content is only allowed to be accessed by home administrator. So this is administrator's home directory. All the content inside it will only be accessed by admin. Now, suppose I want to change this context. Unfortunately, there are no man pages. There is no reading document that will tell you which context to be used in what situation, or how many contexts are there, list of contexts. So there is no such thing. Even if you try out any commands also, it won't tell you that how many contexts are there. You see lsblk is there, lscpu is there, many options are there, but there is no such option like list context, right? So unfortunately, we won't be having any information about how many contexts are there and in which situation what context to be used. That kind of information will not be available. Suppose I want to change this context now. How to change the context. See, till the end of our curriculum, we are going to discuss many contexts regarding different options. We are going to see different context. So in this case, I can only tell you that to change the context, you can go with a command called chcon. What context to use in which context, I'm going to explain you later, right? So if you see over here, we have an option chcon -t, change the type. Argument is nothing but what context followed by file name or directory. One of the example I have used here is public content t. See, public content t is like full permission on any file. If you give public content T, that means you're granting full access. You don't want SCLinux to stop anybody from accessing it. So whenever you want to allow everyone access to a file and you don't want SCLinux to disturb it, we'll give 777 on the file, and next thing we will do is we will add public content. So public content will stop SCLinux from interfering to this file. So it means allowing everyone access towards this file. So to change it, I'll say change context type to public content T. On which file? Hard file. This is permanent change. It is going to be there always. Now, if you just read it back, earlier it was strict and telling you only administrator can access, but now I have changed it and I allowed everyone to access it. Now SCLinux will not disturb anybody from accessing this kind of file. So this is how, whatever context it might be, we use chcon-t and change the context. Do not worry about, as of now, how the context will make the change. I'll show you the real use case of this context when we go to application like Samba or FTP. In that case, we will learn exactly how this context is going to protect. But as of now, let's keep it like that. How to change it? Chcon. Any context it might be, right? See, what happens is even on working environment, we will be given some steps to follow. See, it's not like that you are a system admin, so you can do anything from your own. Whenever you are implementing any new change, there will be some steps of documents given to you. So we just need to read the document. If the document says change the context to this, use chcon-t, change the context to whatever you want. All right, same way, if I wanted to change the context for the directory and all the content inside it. Suppose I wanted to change the context of the directory to public content and all the files inside it also to same. So I'll say chcon -R. R stands for recursive. You want to apply the change on the directory and all the content inside it. Recursively change the type to public content T. For which directory? My directory. Now you run ls-ldz. Earlier it was admin home. Now it is changed to public content. All the files inside it, earlier it was admin home. Now it is public content. So this is the way how you can change the context of a file or a directory. Now suppose you have changed the context many times. You have first changed it to public content, then HTTP sys content, then Samba share, different context you have tried. Now, if you want to reset it back, maybe you want to come back to your default context. How to come back to our default context in SCLinux? To roll it back and to come back to the default context, we have a command called restore con. So when we run the command restore con, it will reset it back to its default value. So I'm going to say restore con -v. V stands for verbose. Before that, you just check out the context of a file. It is this. Now I'll run restore con -v. V is for verbose view. If you want to view how it is changing the context, then you can go for restore con -v. Right? Now, what is the file you want to modify? Hard. Just see over here. Earlier it was public content, which is now modified to admin underscore home underscore t. So it says relabeled the SCLinux policy or the context. Now if you just check it out, you will find out that it is back to admin home. Now same way, if you wanted to modify the context for the directory and the content inside the directory, I want to restore the context for the directory and all the files present inside it. So in order to do that, we'll go with a command restore con -R. If you want to view the verbose output, go with V. I'm not interested to view the output. I'll leave it. For which particular directory? The directory name is myDIA. Now, if you just look out the directory first, earlier it was public content, which is now restored to admin home. All the files inside it, earlier they were public content and now it is restored to admin home. So this is the way how you can restore the context. You can try many things. If nothing works, reset it back and come back to the original value. So this is the way how you can apply the context and you can modify the context. Now the next thing, I want to take a file and I want to set some default context. Suppose I'll create a new file in slash. See, this experiment we cannot do it in root folder. Root is admin directory, and in admin directory it won't allow us to make these changes. So in slash, maybe I'll create a file with the name called se file. Now if you just check out ls-lz se file, it says something, it is etc runtime. Maybe I want to use this particular file with Samba application. Samba is one of the application that allows Windows users to connect to Linux machine and share data, right? So maybe this file I wanted to use with Samba. So there is a share called, or there is a context called Samba share. I want for this file default context to be Samba share. So how can I do that? See, in that scenario, you have to go with a command called se manage. So we need to go with a command se manage file context. -A, add a default value. -T, change the type to what? Any context. In my case, I'm going with Samba underscore share underscore T. On any file, any directory, if you apply Samba underscore share underscore T, that means this file or directory will be accessible through Samba share. On which file? The file name is /myfile. Okay, so let me go for it. I'll say se manage file context. I want to add a default value whose type should be samba underscore share underscore t. And where is the file address? /se file. You see, it is going to take some time to finish this task. Why it is going to take time? Because it is going to update one of the file behind the scene. Where is the file? etc SCLinux targeted contexts files file context.local. In this file, your personal created defaults will be stored, right? So once it is done, let's view it. I'll go to cat etc SCLinux context, sorry, not this thing, I'm so sorry, etc SCLinux targeted context file and file context dot local. when you go to this particular file, it tells you first of all, this file is auto-generated. Do not try to edit it directly. And it says for SE file, the default context is Samba share. So now it is guaranteed that whenever I run restore con on this file, automatically the context that is going to come back is what? Is Samba share. Let's see it out. I'll go for restore con -v se file. So you see it says earlier it was etc runtime, which is now changed to Samba share. You just check it out, you will find out that the context is changed to Samba share. So this is the way how you can make a context as a default context to a file, so that whenever restore con command is applied, automatically that particular file should get restored to Samba share. Same way, you can create a directory also. There is a slight different in a directory. I'll show you what it is. So let me create a directory, and inside this directory, I'm going to keep some files. So scenario is you have a directory called SCDIR, whose context is something called defaulty. And if you check inside that directory, we have 3 files, and all the files are having default T only. Okay, I want to change the context, or I want to make a default context for this directory and all the content. See, if directory does not have any content, to make it default, we have a different method. If directory is already having a content, we have a different method. What is that method? I'll show you. See, we again go with se manage. I'll say file context. I'll again say add a default value. The type should be maybe this time httpd underscore sys content. Suppose this directory I'm trying to use for HTTP purpose, web server purpose. So what I want is, I want this context to be used on the directory. What is the directory address? SCDIR. If the directory is empty, this much is enough. Later on, whatever files are creating inside it, they will also get HTTPD sys content only. But in my case, SCDIR is having some data. So I want to say SCLinux that not only you make the default context for the directory, but inside it there is some data for them also. You have to make default context. So if directory is not empty, then you have to apply like this. You have to use double quotes, within double quotes address of the directory, and you have to use a bracket. In that you have to say inside that directory any file. Dot star means any file including hidden files. Question mark might be any name to that file. So I'm going to say in SCDIR. So I need to use double quotes over here, and I'll say inside it, it can be any file, right? SCDIR, and inside it, it can be anything, followed by a question mark. So I'm telling apply this context not only to this directory, but whatever data that is present inside it. For everything present in that directory, this should be the default context. You see, again, it is going to take some time as it is updating something behind the scene. Let's give it some time. Now again, if you go and read etc SCLinux targeted context file context.local, you'll see that it says for this directory and all its content, the default context will be httpd sys content. Now if you first check ls-ldz, it says defaulty, all the files defaulty. Now if I run the command restore con to reset the context to default, for which directory? SCDIR. In fact, I will use -R to recursively do this change. Now, if you go for ls-ldz, it is http syscontents. All the files inside it, they have also changed to http syscontent. So this is the way how you can make the context for the file default or the directories default. Fine. Now let's move ahead and let's try to talk about our next option, that is Booleans, and let's understand how to modify it. See, when we talk about Booleans, normally Booleans are a small activities whose probable answer will be true or false, or on or off, like that. Now, related to different services and application, we have different levels of booleans. For example, if I say get SE bool, show me all booleans, so it is going to show you all booleans related to each and every service or application that is installed in your system. Maybe I'm not interested in all. I just want to see FTP services. So it is going to show you all the booleans related to FTP, like people can get full access to FTP or not. Through FTP, people can connect to NFS or not. People can use passive mode or active mode. People can access home directory or not. So you see many small activities that can be controlled. Either it would be on or off. Same way, maybe you wanted to check it out related to web services, HTTP, or maybe you wanted to go with a database called MySQL. See, so it is going to show you different options. Now, if I wanted to change this value from off to on, how can I change it from off to on? See, when we talk about Booleans, Booleans can be made either on or off. To make it on or off, you can still use on off, or you can use true false, or you can use 1 or 0. Any of these three values can be used: on off, true false, 1 or 0. End result, it will show you on and off only. So suppose I wanted to change the boolean value MySQL connect any to on. How to change it? I'll say set SE bool. Get SE bool to just view the boolean. Set SE bool to change the boolean value. What is the boolean name? I'll say MySQL. See, I'll use tab key. MySQL connect any. What you want to make it? Suppose I want to make it on. Now you go back and check it out. You see it is saying on. Same way, if you wanted to make it off, then I'm going to repeat the same command and I'm going to say off. In fact, instead of off, you can also say false. End result will be off only. So you can use on or off, true or false, or in fact simply 1 or 0 also. But you see the change what I'm doing. Suppose I'm making it on. So maybe I'll say 1. It says on, but is this change permanent? No, it is temporary. That means right now I made it on. If I reboot the machine, it will be off. Or if it is off or it is on, I made it off. Reboot the machine again, it will be on. So the thing is, whatever changes I am doing, it is temporary. How to make the Boolean change permanent? Right? So in order to do that, you have to go with a command set se bool hyphen capital P, where P stands for persistent or permanent. This time you see it is going to take some time to make it permanent. And now it is guaranteed that the change is going to be permanent. Right now it is on, and even after reboot it will be on. But the question is, how can I know Is the Boolean permanently on or off? It is just telling on. There is no hint whether it is temporary or permanent. To know whether the change you have done is temporary or permanent, you can go with the command scmanage boolean-l, and maybe I'll grep for MySQL. Here you see MySQL Connect Any has two options, on and on. So this is temporary. Right now it is on, and after reboot what it will be. So it says right now it is on, and after reboot also it will be on. MySQL Connect HTTP, right now it is off, and after reboot also it is off. Suppose if I only change it temporarily. So I'll say set SE bool, change MySQL Connect HTTP to on or maybe true. You just come back and see only one value will be affected. Observe here only on. That means right now it is on, and after reboot it will be off. To make it permanent, I just need to repeat the command with -p. That is going to make it permanently on. Right? So this is the way how you can change the Boolean values. Now the last concept in SCLinux, how to change the modes of SCLinux. So you see, I already explained you that there are three modes: enforcing, permissive, and disabled. Whenever you wanted to come from enforcing to permissive, or you want to go back from permissive to enforcing, you don't need any downtime. Online, up and runningly, you can change the mode from enforcing to permissive or permissive to enforcing. There is no reboot downtime required. So how I can change this mode? Let's learn that also. To check the current mode, I'll go with get enforce. To change the mode, we have a command set enforce. Get and set goes hand in hand. See, if I just run set enforce, you see it is allowing me only two modes. What is that? Enforcing and permissive. There are shortcuts. Enforcing is used as 1 and permissive can be used as 0. Observe here, there is no option for disabled. So up and running, you can only go from enforcing to permissive or permissive to enforcing. How to do that? First method, set enforce, make it permissive. Come back and check it out. So you see it is permissive. Now, if I want to change it back to enforce, I'll say set enforce enforcing. Just check it out, it is back to enforcing. Or there is a shortcut what we can use. Very simple. Set enforce 0. 0 means permissive. Just check it out. Or you can say set enforce 1. 1 means enforcing. So 1 means enforcing, 0 means permissive. If you don't want it to type the full thing, you can simply type that 1 and 0 and you can work with that, right? But again, over here, if I run get enforce, it says enforcing. Suppose I'll make it permissive. Is it permissive? Yes. Just run SE status to get more detail. Observe here, current mode is permissive, but mode from config file is enforcing. That means right now it is permissive. After reboot, it is going to be enforcing. So right now I made it permissive. If I reboot the system, it is going to come back to enforcing. Suppose I want to make it permissive. Right now it is permissive, and after reboot also I want to make it permissive. How can I make this change permanent? I know the first thing that might be coming in your mind is -p, but there is no -p option here. If you want to make it permissive, you have to edit the config file. Where is the config file? etc SCLinux config. Go to this file. Over here, you can see there is an option SCLinux enforcing. Observe here, it is written here what enforcing is doing, what permissive will do, and what disabled will do. So I'll just come up here, I'll delete enforcing, and either you can type permissive, or if you don't want to type, just copy it from here and paste it. You know how to copy and paste. When you select, it will be copied, and when you right click, it will be pasted. So let me say escape, save and quit. Now you go with SE status and you see it is permissive. What happens if I do mistake in this file, spelling mistake? Suppose I have given like this, permissive XYZ something. Now if you run SE status, it will display. Let me go back and let me make some big change over here. For example, I'll say permissive with something. Spelling mistake will see and do what it will do. So you see it is going to tell you that there is error in that file, right? So please don't do any spelling mistake. You should perfectly type exactly what is the name. So it is permissive, right? Now I hope it won't give any issues to us. And you see mode from config file is also permissive. So this is the way how you can change the current mode and make it permanent in config file. Now suppose if you want to disable it. To disable it, you have to again go to config file. In the config file, it is written permissive. Just remove it and type disable. Let me save and quit. Now you check SE status and you see it is disabled. Now in order to make that change effective, we have to reboot the machine. I told you from any mode to disable, you have to reboot. And from disable, if you want to come out, you have to reboot. So going from any mode to disable, we require reboot. And coming out of disable to any mode, we still require to reboot the system. It requires a downtime. How can I reboot the machine? You know, we'll just run reboot and it will reboot. But guys, this is a test box and I'm rebooting just like that. On production, this is not the way to reboot the machine. If there are applications and databases running, you need to consult them, take a proper downtime with them. When the applications are down, when the databases are down, then only after confirming 3 times or 4 times, you should run reboot. Otherwise, if applications are running, databases are running, and you abruptly reboot the machine, that is not a good thing. It is going to create problems. Anyway, this is test machine. I'm just going to reboot. Now let's monitor how my Linux machine gets rebooted. Does it make any change while booting as I disabled SCLinux? Let's observe the booting process. As soon as the machine starts booting, you can press escape to view what is going on. See, so far so good. There is no different messages we saw, and very fast the system got booted. So when I disabled, it was very quick disabled and system booted fast. So let me just reconnect to my session. Sorry about that. So let me type my username and password. And now if I say get enforce, it is disabled. Set enforce, it is, sorry. If I say set enforce 1, set enforce 0, SE status, everything says it is disabled and we cannot do anything. If you want to bring it back again to active mode or enforcing mode, you need to go to etc SCLinux config. In this file, you should change from disable to enforcing. Now it is highly recommended. See, if you want, you can go to permissive also, but it is highly recommended that we should go to enforcing. If you bring it back to enforcing, SCLinux will come back fully activated. If you bring it back to permissive, it won't be completely activated, and there might be a requirement that later we have to reboot again. So to avoid rebooting again, we can go for enforcing one more time. So let us bring it back to enforcing. No other way, you have to reboot the machine. Now this time you will see a different mechanism. See, I'm not going to disturb the booting process. Let us see that what uh, message will appear on my screen. Let the system start booting. Observe over here, it is giving us a warning. It says SCLinux targeted policy relabel is required. Relabeling could take very long time depending on file system size and speed of the hard drive. Observe when I ask it to reboot or when I ask it to remove SCLinux and rebooted the machine, it never asked me this question. But when I'm asking it to enforce and again reboot the machine, it is saying that relabeling is going to take a very, very long time. This is how SCLinux will work. Whenever you are trying to uh, remove SCLinux, it would be very quick affair. Very fast it is going to remove SCLinux and reboot the system. But the problem is when you ask it to again apply SCLinux, it says I'm going to take a time. I just think it like a law of nature, guys. To make anything, it takes a long time. Even if you are making a building, you see how much time year might be taken to complete a building properly. But to demolish it, very less time it will take. Fractions of a day or minute it might be gone, isn't it? So same way over here also, when you are asking to make SCLinux policies available, it is taking time. But when we are asking it to remove, very quick fire, it has removed it. So this time it is going to take some time, and after that it will reboot the system again, right? So one more time the system will be rebooted, and after reboot, SCLinux will again get activated, right? So we just need to wait till this process is completed, and after the process is completed, the system will be rebooted. Meanwhile, let me discuss few other things that where SCLinux is suitable and where SCLinux is not suitable. See, if you wanted to control your production environment and you are little bit concerned about security, you don't want any unauthorized guy to get access to the whole system. For extra layer of security, we definitely like to go with SCLinux. But guys, sometimes always having an extra security is a nice thing. But sometimes too much security might also disturb the performance. Suppose I have uh, an office with 3-floor building. If I keep a security guard at every door or every step, the guy who is entering into my office will be checked at every step. At the main door, we will check the person. After that, entering into the reception, we will check the person. After that, going to first floor, we will check them. After that, if the guy is trying to enter into manager's room, I'll check that. So too much security might also affect the performance. People might get irritated. So here also there are few applications which does not like so much security to be involved, right? For example, if we go with a concept of cluster, like Red Hat cluster, maybe Red Hat cluster is fine, but if you go with Veritas cluster or Hadoop cluster for databases and all, or MySQL cluster, or if you are going purely with database concept like Oracle database or SQL databases or MySQL databases, in that case, these clustering application databases, they don't like too much interference of security. Too much security involved, it will affect their performance. So in most of their document, they will recommend that please turn off SCLinux. We don't want so much detailed security on every step. right? So cluster does not like too much security involvement. So whenever you are trying to deploy a cluster of Red Hat or any other, we will try to avoid using this concept. Basically, what is a cluster? If you just wanted to know, I can give you an overview. See, normally what will happen is we will have our production application, right? And your production application is running on one machine, right? So what happens if this machine fails? Hmm? Let us say all my production application, my production is going on. Due to some issue, if this machine fails, then what will happen? The application will fail, business will fail, customer will get distracted, and we will lose business. Not to have that thing, we will make a group of computers working for an application. So that is nothing but cluster. So in cluster, what we will do, instead of depending on one machine, we will take two machines, right? And the application what we are going to use will be deployed on two machines, right? How it will be deployed and all, there is detailed architecture, but basically the application will be synchronized available on two machines. Now in this case, due to any problem, if first machine fails, automatically the application will move to second machine. It will get activated here and people will be able to access my application. That is nothing but your clustering environment. Okay, meanwhile you see this concept is finished and system got restarted. As the system is restarted, let us again come back, log in into it, and let us try to check the detail. I'll say get enforce, enforcing, and set enforce, sorry, SE status, you will find everything is fine. So this is the way how we work with SCLinux, right? That's all about this session of SCLinux, right? And we are going to stop this over here. We don't have anything much beyond this point. Thank you very much.